Hey guys, I am out here on me and my wife's front porch, and I kind of just wanted to have, instead of doing a knife review, have kind of a philosophical discussion about a topic that I know a lot of you guys are actually interested in, including me: extra large folding knives. I want to kind of talk about what's the point, why would people carry them, the utilitarian aspects behind them, and kind of how I see them in the EDC knife carrying world. So today our example is going to be the Cold Steel Recon 1, or the Cold Steel Voyager rather, in XL, and this is in AUS 10. Cold Steel is well known for making these XL knives, and there are some other companies that make some larger knives, but for kind of the purposes of what I'm going to be talking about, anything really, I'm going to say over 4.5 inches, 4.5 inches or over, I'm going to call like an extra large knife. Large knives I usually consider 3.5 inches to 4.5. Smaller knives, around 3 to kind of under. So, the big reason why I believe people carry them, and some people would argue differently, I'm going to say it's a cool factor. It is cool to whip out a knife that looks like this, that you have, 1.5 handle grip on. People enjoy being able to pull this out when someone says, I need a knife, and they whip this thing out and it has a 5.5 inch blade. And that's not to mention other knives. The Cold Steel Espada XL is 7.5 inches. Just the blade, you have more reach than a large Bowie knife when you kind of choke back on that knife, just like on this knife. So I think the biggest reason someone's going to carry an extra large knife is primarily because it looks cool. It's fun to carry. It makes you feel good. And as far as I'm concerned, guys, that is a completely valid reason to carry a knife. The things we use our knives for usually are opening packages. Maybe you're a carpenter, maybe you work on houses, or you do electrical work. So you're using your knife more, for utilitarian tasks regularly. And so you might need a specific design of knife. But a lot of us carry our knives to, for utilitarian tasks also, but it's not necessary for our jobs. And so we can carry a knife around like this and just love carrying this thing around and just enjoy that this is a big beefy knife. And when someone looks at it, when you pop this thing out, they go, oh my goodness. So I think that's probably the primary reason a lot of people carry these knives. Now, there are going to be some people who carry big knives like this, and I've owned the Cold Steel Espada, the XL, the medium, or not the XL, I've owned the large and the medium. The large is an awesome knife, so is the medium, but the large is really, really cool, especially with that wave feature. And I've also owned the Spyderco, Resilience, which is a 4.5 inch blade. I would consider that an extra large size knife. So there are other reasons people carry them, and I think that another reason might be if you are into martial arts and kind of blade craft, you've trained at various martial arts facilities with edged weapons, and it's something that you enjoy. It's a hobby of yours, but also it's a way to defend yourself. Maybe where you live, you can't carry a gun, but you can carry a knife. I don't know of many jurisdictions like that, but maybe that's where you live, and that is what you carry to defend yourself. I think that's a completely valid reason, but I think the demographics of people who do that are going to be a little bit lower than those who carry them just because they're cool. So there is the aspect of those people, some of you guys might be watching this, who know how to fight with a knife. That's something that you've trained with for a long time, and you carry a knife as a self-defense weapon. And these knives, with the reach that they have, I know some people like shorter knives for defensive blades, and I'm sure there are reasons why. Again, I'm not a knife fighter, but I know when it comes to physical combat, the reason that a firearm works better than a sword is because of reach. The distance in between the people who are fighting is much further. And with a knife like this, and I should have brought a few more examples out, but with a knife like this versus even a knife with 4 inches of blade, you're losing at least a few inches, especially because of a handle like this. You get an extra 3 or 4 inches, or about 3 inches of reach with this thing. So you're looking at almost 8 inches of reach with a knife like this. And I know that, if I was defending myself with a knife, I would want to keep the person as far back as possible away from me. So I think there are a subset of people who carry these knives because they are, they're used in a defensive role, just like, I carry a firearm for. So the last kind of reason I think that people might carry these knives, I think it's an even smaller subset. I don't have demographics to back these up, but this is kind of just what I've seen in the forums and people who I know, is that a large knife like this, if you do really, really heavy duty work, let's say you're like a lineman, right? And you're up on the line and there's a branch in your way, and a small, 3-inch knife wouldn't be able to hack through that. Well, a knife like this has some forward motion, and also with the triad lock that, a lot of these XL cold steel knives have, even the strong liner lock of the Spyderco Resilience, it's going to be able to handle some really, really light chopping. So you pull this knife out, you don't have to worry about it. You chop through that, 1/4-inch branch, it comes down, you get to work. So there are some actual utilitarian tasks that I think bigger knives like this do excel at. And, you even carrying this thing in the woods or anything like that, this is going to be able to handle bigger tasks that those smaller knives simply won't. And due to the strength of this locking mechanism and a lot of the locking mechanisms on modern knives, they're very strong and they can handle the tough stuff. So you could use this out in the woods, though most people don't tend to use, Tanto stuff out in the woods. They work fine. They're not going to be as effective as, I think, a drop point or a clip point or anything like that. But there are utilitarian tasks that this can handle really, really well, and you don't have to worry about, one, it being smaller and a bit more fragile, and two, you not having enough length to be able to handle a task, because God knows you have plenty of length on a knife like this. So I personally, I really like XL knives, and it's mainly for the first reason, guys. It's because they're cool. They are super cool to have. They're super cool to use. You pull out a knife like this. I did this yesterday. A friend of mine was like, "Do you have a knife?" And was getting some tape up from the carpet. And I'm like, "Yeah." And I pulled this thing out. He's like, "Oh my gosh, that thing is crazy and it's ridiculous and it's awesome." And I think that's a totally valid reason to carry a knife. It's the same reason we wear certain types of clothes or we drive the cars that we drive. It's okay to get something that it maybe doesn't serve the most utilitarian purpose, though it can serve those purposes. But mostly it's just super cool and fun to use. Guys, let me know if you like XL knives. What do you carry yours for? Do you carry it as a defensive knife? Do you carry it because in your trade it's really, really useful? Do you carry it just to be cool like me? Let me know what you think of XL knives. Make sure to like and subscribe, guys, and we will see you in the next video. See ya.